good to be back. Not quite 100% yet, and I appreciate all your prayers, and you could say a little prayer right now that I don't start coughing, as there's no way to cover up this mic. If I turn my head, it goes with me, so hopefully it's all going to be good. Not so easy being a Christian, is it? Whenever we think it's too difficult, we need to remember what the disciples faced and how they were persecuted for staying true to the gospel and teaching's example of Christ. The Corinthians questioned Paul's authority, his salary, and even his stature. Paul defended his choices, but more importantly, he continued to point to Jesus. What did he do that guides us for today? When he was criticized, he could have defended himself and all the things that had dramatically happened to him on the road to Damascus and all those other incidents that he had been through. But instead, he turned his attention to Jesus. He did not boast, but rather instead referred to himself as an ordinary clay pot. Guess what? We are all like clay pots. Not sure you expected to hear that this morning, but that's what we are. We all have our flaws and our sins. Not one of us is perfect, but God accepts us anyway. When Paul was criticized, he simply said he was a common clay jar. Some of you may remember in Philippians chapter 4 that Paul urges us to rejoice in all circumstances. Instead of complaining about our trials, Paul's telling us that joy never depends on our circumstances. No matter what he faced, Paul knew that what mattered was who was inside him, inside this clay pot, and that was God, the one who never abandoned him. Think of two cakes made exactly the same. Which one would you choose? The one that had plain icing or the one that was all beautifully decorated? We tend to think that someone is like the way they are dressed, what they're reflecting on the outside, but really we need to look at the inside. We don't take the time we need to take so often to get to really know people. In a group of people, do you tend to gravitate toward the group that, a lot of people are talking and laughing with each other and carrying on a great conversation, or to the one who's sitting alone across the room? We tend to see the outside, but God sees the inside. God sees our heart. Look around you. Go ahead. Look. Look at each other. Look around. Look carefully. Look at all the clay pots around you. Do you see the light of Christ shining in them and through them? Who are the clay pots in our church? Guess what? All of us. Did you ever think that the person who doesn't seem very active or involved might just be the person who's praying for you? Keep looking at the people around you. Now choose one person and look for the treasure within them. Make a greater effort to get to know them. Years ago, I was reading some obituaries and I thought, we shouldn't know people better after they died than while they're living. And I confess that I learn a lot about people while I'm preparing their funerals or memorial services. But I think we should all make the effort to get to know someone better this week. You may feel like a clay pot for any number of reasons. Perhaps it is then we need to remember that the weakness is ours, the glory is God's. We can fully rely on him. We might even be persecuted by other people, but we are never abandoned by him. It's difficult to do, but there are times when we have to accept what we cannot understand and lean on Jesus. We have to be willing to get up after every time we fall. We are weak like fragile clay containers, but it is to these fragile vessels, us, that the treasure of the gospel is entrusted. The most important treasure within us is our faith, and it's a gift to us that we are to share with others. You may have low self-esteem at times, but God designed us in his image. If there are times when you feel as though you're not good enough, I want you to remember this story. There was a man exploring caves by the seaside, and in one of the caves he found this canvas bag with a bunch of hardened clay balls. It was like somebody had rolled the clay and then put them out in the sun to dry. They didn't look like much, but it kind of intrigued the man, so he took the bag out of the cave with him. And then he just strolled along the beach, and he would toss a clay ball in, and then he'd keep strolling, and he kept tossing them in, probably trying to see how far he could get them. And then he dropped one, and it cracked open. And inside was a beautiful, precious stone, a treasure in clay. Excited, the man started breaking open the remaining clay balls, and each one of them contained a similar treasure. He found thousands of dollars worth of jewels in the 20 or so balls that he had left. And then it dawned on him. He had been on the beach a long time. He had thrown maybe 50 or 60 balls with their hidden treasure in the clay into the ocean waves. He could have had tens of thousands of dollars instead of just, what he had. He had thrown them away. It's like that with people. We look at someone, maybe even ourselves, and we see the external clay vessel. Doesn't look like much from the outside. It isn't always beautiful or sparkling, so we discount it. We see that person as less important than someone more beautiful or stylish or well-known or wealthy, but we've not taken the time to find treasure within that person. There's a treasure in each and every one of us. If we take the time to get to know someone, and if we ask God to show us that person the way he sees them, then the clay begins to peel away and the brilliant gem begins to shine forth. May we not come to the end of our lives and find out that we have thrown away a fortune in friendships because the gems were hidden in bits of clay. May we see people in our world as God sees them. I'm sure that most, if not all of you, heard the news about the decisions of General Conference made this week concerning the direction of the United Methodist Church. I imagine there are many different feelings and opinions about it. Some are stronger than others. Some of you may be celebrating, others may be mourning, and some may not have strong feelings either way on the decisions that were made. But I personally believe that you should decide for yourself where you stand in your faith beliefs. Then in the light of this sermon, I urge you to remember that there's a treasure of great value in each of us. We have been created by God in his image. We may not all agree with one another, but we are able, hopefully, to respect each other. Our purpose is to shine our light for Christ. Instead of focusing on what our churches are going through, we need to focus on what we are becoming as disciples of Jesus Christ. However, there's a difference between loving people, shining our light, and being honest about what does and does not please God. In the previous chapter in 2 Corinthians, Paul reminds us that we are in the process of becoming like Christ. That should be true for us individually and as a church. I'd like to share another story with you that shares the importance of remembering that we all have worth and we are all valued no matter what flaws or differences we may have. There was a water bearer in India who had 2 large pots, and across their shoulders, 1 pot hung on each side. I think some of you have probably seen pictures of that. This water bearer carried that pole around her neck, and one of the pots had a crack in it, while the other pot was perfect and always delivered a full portion of water at the end of the long walk from the stream to the mistress's house. The cracked pot arrived only half full. For full 2 years, this went on daily, with the bearer delivering only 1.5 pots of water to her master's house. The perfect pot was proud of his accomplishments, perfect to the end for which it was made. But the poor cracked pot was ashamed of its own imperfection and miserable that it was able to accomplish only half of what it had been made to do. After 2 years of what it perceived to be a bitter failure, it spoke to the water bearer one day by the stream. "I'm ashamed of myself, and I want to apologize to you." "Why?" asked the water bearer. "Well, for these past 2 years, I've only been able to deliver half of my load because the crack in my side causes water to leak out all the way back to your mistress's house. Because of my flaws, you have to do all the work, and you only have 1.5 load water to deliver. You don't get the full value for your efforts," the pot said. The water bearer felt sorry for the old cracked pot, and in her compassion she said, "As we return to the mistress's house, I want you to notice the beautiful flowers along the path." Indeed, as they went up the hill, the old cracked pot took notice of the sun warming all the beautiful flowers on the side of the path, and this cheered it some, but at the end of the trail it still felt bad because it had only delivered half its load, and so again apologized to the bearer for its failure. The bearer said to the pot, "Did you notice that there were flowers on only one side of the path, but not on the other pot's side? That's because I've always known about your flaw, and I took advantage of it. I planted flower seeds along that side of the path, and every day while we walked back from the stream, you've watered them. For 2 years, I have been able to decorate beautiful flowers for my mistress's table. Without you being just the way you are, she would not have this beauty to grace her home." The moral of that story is that each of us has our own unique flaws. We're all cracked pots. But it's the cracks and flaws that we have that make our lives together so very interesting and rewarding. We simply have to look at each person for who they are and look for the good in them. This simple story helps us to remember that we are God's treasure in clay. Too often we act as though we are nothing more than cracked pots or clay balls. 2 Corinthians 4:7 says, "We now have this light shining in our hearts, but we ourselves are like fragile clay jars containing this great treasure." The Greek says, "We now have this treasure in clay jars." And this makes it clear that the power is from God and not ourselves. In a few minutes, we're going to sing Hymn of Promise. I know that's a favorite of many of you, but I want you to really think about the words as you sing them. They reinforce this scripture and message. In the bulb, there is a flower. Bulbs are ugly. We just stick them in the dirt, but they grow into beautiful flowers. And in the seed, an apple tree. In cocoons, a hidden promise, butterflies will soon be free. In the cold and snow of winter, there's a spring that waits to be unrevealed until its season, something God alone can see. And then later, our death, a resurrection, and so on. Brothers and sisters, what we fail to comprehend now, which may seem plain and unattractive, which seems difficult to understand, all have a purpose that will, in the right time, be revealed to us. There's treasure in each and every one of us. Make an effort every day to take the time to just look for that hidden treasure in the people you see, in every person. We all have been created by God, and He makes no mistakes. We are all, again, made in His image. Also, I'm sorry if I'm upsetting your thoughts, but none of us is perfect. We're all flawed in one or more ways. And in other words, yes, we are cracked pots, and even cracked pots have value. Pastor Andy and I are always asking and encouraging you to share your faith. An easy way to be a living example is to take the time just to say something positive, people, every day. Even if simply your smile just lights up the room, or, you're so good at what you do, or you've been so helpful, thank you. Thank people often and tell them you appreciate them. Every single person is a child of God. And maybe we just need to be the person who lets them know that. Today I'm challenging you to do 3 things. Let your light shine through the cracks. Look for the treasure in each person and water the plants along the way, and watch how people will bloom because of you. God is using each and every one of us in our own unique way. Remember, what we cannot see or understand now, God will reveal to us in exactly the right time. There is a treasure in you. Let your light shine. Amen.